I'm going to give my best Bernie Sanders impression right now because I want to get into this right now. What does it even matter? If U.S. intelligence warned of a potential for Gaza clash in days before the attack. And I think this lends credence to the point.
Both of us and Egypt did.
Egypt, and we talked about, the whole situation. There are a lot of people out there that are insinuating that this was allowed to happen, or they let it happen, or they planned it themselves to move them into the whole process of bombing Gaza back to the Stone Age and getting them out of there.
I don't believe it.
There's a lot of talk. I said, listen, and this is what I learned from Lahaina. It's always somewhere in between. I don't care if it was let to happen, if it was meant to happen, or it just naturally happened. There's a cabal. There's a mechanism in place that's ready to take over and go forth with their plans once it does happen. We learned this from the Wesley Clark letters, like we're going to invade all these countries. They were ready to happen. So whether this happened naturally, whether it was forced to happen, false flag, it doesn't matter. Because there's already that mechanism in play ready to take over and do what they want to do when it does happen. Washington, CNN, the U.S. intelligence community produced at least 2 assessments based in part on intelligence provided by Israel, warning the Biden administration of an increased risk for a Palestinian-Israeli conflict in the weeks ahead of Saturday's seismic attack on southern Israel, according to the sources familiar with the intelligence. One update from September 28th warned, based on multiple streams of intelligence, that the terror group Hamas was poised to escalate rocket attacks across the border. On October 5th, an October 5th wire from the CIA warned generally of the increasing possibility of violence by Hamas. Then, on October 6th, the day before the attacks, U.S. officials circulated reporting from Israel indicating unusual activity by Hamas, indications that are now clear. An attack was imminent. So, my question to the Due Dissidence boys is from Bernie Sanders. What does it even matter? Because I also see this video. I didn't bring it today. It's on TikTok. It's on Instagram, whatever. And it's about how could these hand gliders go over here? Israel has all these F-16s working around the clock, ready to go and whatnot. Well, first off, I don't think the hand gliders would have been taken out by F-16s. I think they would have been taken out by snipers or some type of ground-to-air situation. But what does it even matter? And do you think this was a planned attack that was allowed to happen? Or do you think this is just a natural cause? You do. Yes. Russell, jump in, please.
You know, there is actually, just like it says a lot about German, that they have the word Schadenfreude. There is actually a Hebrew word for establishing that roughly translates as establishing facts in the field. If you look at the history of the Palestinians in that region, everyone, I think, has seen the map. It's been going around a lot of how their territory has shrunk and shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. I think Israel would much rather answer for why there are no longer Palestinians in the region than have Palestinians in the region. I think they want to establish facts in the field. When you put together everything that we know about the warnings that they had, yes, very much like the theory that Pearl Harbor was allowed to happen to get us into the war, whether that's true or not true. I think this was definitely a case where, especially with Netanyahu in charge, that they wanted an excuse to further drive Palestinians out of that territory. In the end, they want the entire territory that was once known as Palestine before 1948. They want that all to be the state of Israel.
Okay, so they want that to happen, but did they let it happen, make it happen, or
I
it
believe
just happen naturally?
based on the evidence, yes.
Hey,
which one?
It seemed you're talking about a state that is constantly fearful of being attacked by Palestinians and what they term terrorists, get multiple warnings, and they don't do anything about it, and that's not intentional. I don't find that credible.
Okay.
I don't find that story good. That doesn't make any sense.
I thought exactly what you think until I walked in today and that guy Marcus Svoboda came on. And then I now don't think that, because he said Hamas they knew what lines Mossad listens to, and they put out, we don't have enough missiles. So I have now I do kind of think, because I think, of course, overall they want any excuse to ethnically cleanse all of them. I don't think they expected it right this second. I don't think they did. I think that Netanyahu, Mossad didn't listen to the warnings. because they really rely on that tech stuff. And what Mark said, they're hearing, oh, we maybe ought to drop the whole thing, and they felt too confident. And then this moron had everybody worried about the West Bank where the settlers are, and they got Israeli politicians right in the tip of the spear of settlements, and really were that arrogant and thought I think they always did. Of course, we want it to become a thing. That's why you would pay Hamas. He said that's why they're paying Hamas, because they want them. I don't think they expected it right now, and I did think that before you brought Mark Svoboda on. I'm even saying what he said as well.
I tend to lean a little bit towards what Mark Svoboda said today too, as well.
I thought exactly what he just said until I heard what the full. He said it better than me, by the way.
Honestly, I didn't hear it. I'd have to hear a credible counter argument.
Yeah.
It strains credulity to me that a state that is in a constant mode of alert with multiple warnings from outside intelligence agencies would have not doubled down on security at that time. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I'd have to hear the argument that he made, but that fact pattern, combined with their motivation to get Palestinians out of that region, suggests to me that they probably let it happen.
Well, I'll still say it before we hand it over to Keaton. What does it even matter, right? Like they
fight now, investigate later.
The cabal and the mechanisms are in place that when it does happen, they will go right into work. Listen, with Lahaina, it was decades of water diversion. It was bringing in grass indigenous to Africa. It had many years to set up what took place just a couple months ago, right? So what I'm saying is that I don't know if these things are pushed to happen, false flag, black ops, whatever you want to call them, or it's just a natural occurrence. That mechanism and that cabal is in place to just go to work, baby. Keaton, please.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. On the question, was it, an inside job or a false flag, right? I was talking to my in-laws earlier, and I got to be careful. I got to say this quietly because they're in the next room babysitting my kids, so I could do this. They're libs, big libs, big libs.
Shit
my
libs.
In-laws. Well, I mean, I can't be that rude in their presence, but they're libs. We'll say that.
Gotcha.
And my father-in-law was telling me, hey, do you think Israel let this happen on purpose so that they could go in? So if they're thinking it's not that crazy. I could say that. On the question that you asked, Pasta, though, that's really the bigger question, because ultimately, whether Israel had advanced knowledge or they let this happen, or they knew there was some plan in the works that they just turned a blind eye to, right? And we talk about, I mean, there's a lot of comparisons between gaming that out in your head between this and 9/11, obviously. These are the questions that a lot of people ask with regard to that. But the bigger question is what you were just talking about, right? Bigger than Israel's desire to cleanse Palestine and swallow their state entirely. Bigger than that is, what does the United States want from this? It seems very obvious to me that the people running things really want World War III. They really want it. And the thing that occurred to me was this attack happened, less than a week after the Ukraine funding got tied up. Right?
Yes, it did.
Yes, it did.
Ukraine funding hit a
tweet.
snag.
Yeah.
Okay, no more money to Ukraine. And we come out here and we say, look, the Republicans found a way. These 8 Republicans found a way to throw a wrench into the war machine. And then a week later, this happens.
A bunch of freaking ammunition to the tinfoil hats out there. Like Keaton, the leftists, even said they canceled the funding, and all of a sudden this happens. Coincidence?
But I don't think they're
playing. Well, you want to throw them more ammo.
I mean, you asked. I wouldn't have gone here at all, but you asked the question.
The plans don't go.
I figured that was a green light to answer.
It's like Eddie Murphy inviting Rick James to their house. We are going to mess up your couch, Pasta. We are going to dig our heels right into that couch. We also covered Tucker Carlson gave a speech where he was saying, anyone who assumes that this election is just going to be, Trump and Biden, these people are always 2 steps ahead of you. You don't even know what world you're going to be in 2024. And this broke out in terms of what you're talking about with a cabal. I agree with Keaton. They want World War III. There's a lot of money to be made in World War III, and I think they're also arrogant enough to want to instigate World War III with the assumption that they'll win it and secure a hegemony that they can feel slipping away from them.
Right.
Yeah.
This is where we differ a little. I think that you guys look to the disaster capitalism mechanism. I'm looking at the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the Malthusians,
Aren't they
right?
all
That
the
want to
same?
get rid of.
Well, no, I think there's
But it's a
something
lot
to that
of
too.
look. There's not one interest. There's a lot of converging interests. Vultures don't have to kill the prey. They got to just circle around until the inevitable happens. And I think even though, not that I wouldn't believe they would on purpose do this. It's not that I don't think like Netanyahu wouldn't do that. What he said, Mark, really, because I came in thinking that after I watched a bunch of videos, it makes sense. It's like how Obama killed Osama bin Laden a week before Pakistan thought he was gonna, and it kind of screwed him. I think what happens is people throw a wrench in the works, because I think Netanyahu wouldn't have left a 5-hour gap in helping anyone on purpose, because they're pointing at him, even though every idiot here who doesn't know anything about anything there and isn't going to look is like, don't say it now. It wasn't. The people in Israel are mad at him. And I don't think his plan, if he wanted to do that, would have been quite so awful looking. I think he would have dressed it up a little more. I'm sure they always wanted to kill all the rest of the Palestinians, but I don't think they saw this coming. I actually, when he was explaining that, I was like, oh, I really think.
I thought it was inevitable that they were going to fight back.
It's inevitable, but
Well,
I don't think I thought it was
poll
today.
numbers are still horrible.
yesterday.
That's one thing he definitely did not anticipate. His polling is still horrible, even now to this day.
That's
Poll
why he's
came
trying
out,
to kick
the
it up with
Jerusalem
everybody.
Well, they
Hezbollah,
want to
you know?
remove him, right? Wasn't it like
He's got to
78%?
keep the war going, or he's in big trouble.
They've already tried to remove him, and he's back. You know, how can we miss
Right.
you if you don't go away, Netanyahu? And then Donald Trump taking shots at him today. That's got to be freaking painful, man.
Loser, a hater and a loser.
We were in agreement on Soleimani, and then the night before he got drunk. He didn't want to do it.
So, bottom line, your thoughts, your final opinions. Russell, I guess you're saying that this was allowed to happen, or this was inside jobby. You know, maybe.
Hey, I allow for a counter argument. Like I said, I didn't hear what your previous guest's argument was.
You're gonna have to watch the Jimmy Dore show more often.
Impressed with.
Huh?
I was working today.
I got you. I appreciate you getting on early for me. Keaton, your final thoughts. Are you like me? What does it even matter?
I think so, yes, because you also have to ask the question, like, if you're speculating, was it some sort of false flag or inside job? If it was, I can't imagine that Israel cooked this up without our knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to ask the question, well, what did we want out of it, right? And that's a bigger question, because look, ultimately, you look at the timeline, you look at the maps. Israel's plan was to always swallow the Palestinian state. And maybe this accelerates that. But I think the bigger question is what do we want out of this? What do we want out of this? I think it's just extremely dangerous, but also extremely telling that this happens just as the Ukraine war sort of hit a bit of a snag. Right after the summer offensive failed, the front lines have not moved. Right, that's being fought to a stalemate. We're not going to be able to do that forever. And they need. And look, you sometimes you have to turn on that second burner.
Did I
that's
send
what
you
this
the article?
feels like to me.
Did I send you the article and I showed it to Jimmy the other day? I think I showed it to you, Kurt, too, as well. That Congress is talking about wrapping up a bill that funds both Ukraine and Israel at the same time.
Is Lahaina in there anywhere? No,
no Lahaina.
No American location is in that bill of help.
No,
of course not.
No. And you had the best line, right? The vultures don't have to kill the prey, right? They just have to circle until they.
Yeah, well, I believe John.
Well, there are a
Kirby's
lot.
tears-
I mean,
tears were
isn't there
real.
an indigenous population in Lahaina, right? You were talking about that.
There is.
Pasta.
There is. I don't think
All right,
it's
so why
as-
don't they just
yeah,
lock
yeah.
them in a fence and then they'll get some money?
Hey, come see us doing the live shows. We're going to be in Dallas, Houston, San Diego, Bloomington, Illinois, Indianapolis, Levittown, New York, Red Bank, New Jersey, Wilmington, Delaware, Covina, California, Burbank, California, and Oxnard, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets. See you at a live show.